subscribe, hit that like button, rate and read the pod on Apple Podcasts, and let me know what you guys think in the comments.
Ken, let's just jump right into it. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and who you are for our listeners that don't know you?
Well, my name is Ken Reyes. I have a day job. I work as a patient care technician in the hospital. And on the side, I do sound bath, sound healing, and I do charcuterie boards. I make them.
Yes. So for some context here, Ken and I actually met back when we used to work together about 6 years ago. But Ken is freaking phenomenal and has ventured off into making some income on the side via these charcuterie boards and sound baths. Like, how did you even get into that?
Well, that's a very interesting story. Well, I started with doing the sound bath first. So I just start attending sound healing events here in Vegas. And I was like, wait a minute, I can do this. So during the pandemic, I started investing in sound healing instruments. And my cousin's wife, who's also a sound healer in Long Beach, actually told me to invest in some alchemy singing bowls. And at first, it was just for myself because I suffer from anxiety, a lot of anxiety and depression during the pandemic. And it's just for me. And after that, people started saying, like, close family and friends, you can do this on the side if you want. So I was like, yeah, why not? And then with the charcuterie business, it was during my first public sound bath. It was in a friend's house and she ordered a charcuterie box. And I was like, what is this? I can do better than this. So I started doing research on how to make them. And then I made it in a friend's house. And they're like, oh, you're good at this. So I just started like that.
So backtrack for a second. In terms of your charcuterie board business, Grazin Kens, beforehand, did you have any experience working in the food industry or?
No, it's just more of like, okay, let's try doing this. Or because I looked up YouTube videos on how to make them and I was like, well, this is easy. So I just bought like the food for the board and I bought a chopping board and that's it.
Oh, wow. So I guess, would you say that you were self-taught when it comes to making charcuterie boards?
Yes. And it's more of like my creativity just comes out from if I keep making them, I keep coming up with new ideas.
How do you keep up with that? Because I feel like with charcuterie boards, it's definitely another creative outlet. How do you get inspired to make different charcuterie boards or like offer different ones for clients?
Well, at first you just follow like certain design patterns that you see on videos. And then later on, you just come up with your own. So at first, my boards are like, they look mediocre, but
I don't think so. They look amazing. He's talking himself down, everybody.
Well, later on, like I just keep improving the techniques on how to layer the food and like make a flow with the board. Because like you can make like certain like bowls as like focal points on the design.
Oh, I can see that.
Yeah.
So at what point, while you were starting to explore the charcuterie space, at what point did you say, I can charge money for this?
Well, at first I was just doing it for our friends' parties. And then I met this girl. She's really phenomenal. Her name is Angelina. She's a TikToker here in Vegas. She's a friend of a friend. And she's like, wait, you can do this like as a business. And I was like, hmm, okay, let's try it. So I did an event with her. It's like it's like a class on how to make charcuterie boxes. And it was a success. And then
Wait,
people,
so you did the class with her?
I did the class with her. So she organized the event, and I just did everything myself. I set up everything.
Oh,
Like
wait, so were you teaching or you were?
I was teaching, yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Oh, and I didn't have any previous like experience on like conducting a class like that. So it was kind of like a learning experience for me also, but it turned out to be a huge success. And then I started booking like uh more like I start to get more orders from there because like the girls just love it and they just spread out the word. And yeah, that's how it started.
Whoa, so you got clients from that class that you taught in terms of how to create the charcuterie boards. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. And also like through my coworkers, because sometimes I just make it for fun at work, and uh friends of friends just started spreading the word, and that's how I make business.
So do you, I guess, what do you do in terms of marketing, or is it just word of mouth at the moment?
At the moment, well, it's kind of hard. I started an Instagram page for both my sound healing and the charcuterie business. Um, yeah, it's a little bit hard to just like I'm not really good at sales, so it's not really my forte, like marketing. So most of my clients are through word of mouth, and yeah.
Is that something that you're thinking about doing? Is marketing though, like whether it be social media or, I mean, even like business cards?
Yeah, I'm starting to set up uh like to improve the business actually, because I have a big event coming up in September. Um like a client invited me to do a big event. I can't say yet, but it's in September in Santa Monica.
Oh, that's exciting. Well, I feel okay, and I've told you this before as a friend. I do think that your business could absolutely blow up, especially if you got on social media and started consistently promoting yourself. Because if you're getting these clients, customers now, imagine how much more revenue or income you would make through Instagram or TikTok. Because I feel like you would just have another audience that doesn't know about you, and it would just help with discoverability.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I don't know. It's just a bit hard for me to just like put content out there, because content creation is a lot of work. You need to make lots of videos, lots of photos, take a lot of photos, and that's something that I'm not really like heavily interested on. I mean, I still take photos of the products that I make, like the boards and videos of the sound bats, but I I'm not really heavily invested in it. So that's what I'm trying to improve right now.
Invested in it yet.
Yeah.
I think eventually you are going to be 100% invested in this because, like you mentioned earlier, like you do work a day job. And I understand because I work my day job as well. And it is a lot of time and effort to try to create on your days off, schedule and post it aside from, like trying to rest and recover from like the shift that you just worked because you and I both work in medicine and they require very long hours. So I get it, I understand, but would you say that you would like to continue your charcuterie business, Grazin Kens, as a side hustle on the side, or is it something that you're interested in doing full time?
Well, for now, because trying to switch career. So I graduated my bachelor's degree in electrical engineering. So I'm in the process of switching career. So I see both businesses as side hustle. And I mean, so it's an additional income for me, but I'm not really too heavy on, I'm not too invested in it yet.
By that, do you mean like, would you say that you're just taking clients that suddenly appear out of nowhere? Like you're not actively searching for clients?
Yeah, for now, no. Um, people normally with sound baths, they need to book me at least a week in advance. And with charcuterie, they need to book me at least 2 weeks in advance because I do all the work. I do all the shopping for the food, and I still need to conceptualize what I want to build with the design. So it takes some time for that.
I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you balance it because it sounds like a tremendous amount of work, just the charcuterie board business in
Yeah.
itself, and then adding the sound bath in there. Like, how do you balance the two out with your day job in addition to those two things?
Just like what I said, they have to book me in advance, and then I have to check my work schedule if it fits. And if it fits, then I'll say yes, and then we start planning from there.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, I do get a lot of like challenges with these two businesses. For first of all, with sound baths, um, I was having a hard time at first on like pricing because like with sound baths here in Vegas, they do charge a certain amount. And since I'm starting, I I felt like my services aren't as great at first as the more established ones here in Vegas. And eventually I started increasing my price. So
How did you determine like your
well, I
beginner
just
prices?
looked around on different events on how much they charge, and I started charging lower than that. So
Wait, why lower? Was it because you thought that would be a better deal?
because it's that, and also I need to gain more experience first. Because I mean, I when I acquired my instruments, of course, like I still need to learn how to do the harmonies and all of that. I don't have like a really good like music background, so I just learned that on the go. And my cousin's wife, which is like her name is Joy, that sound healer in Long Beach, she actually helped me uh, in the learning process. And then my singing bowl distributor also taught me a lot. And also I did a lot of like self-study.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So your singing bowl distributor and Joy, do they do sound baths as a business, like for income?
Yes, they do it as a side hustle also. Well, my distributor, that's his main source of income.
Or the sound baths?
He does sound baths also, and he distributes alchemy singing bowls. So, and then my cousin's wife, she's a registered nurse, so she does case management, and she does sound baths on the side.
Is that kind of who you took like mentorship from, like in terms of?
Yes. Yeah. And she also does like a lot of like free events. So that's how I started with free events, because I wanted to gain more audience here in Vegas, because like, you know, it's a smaller city compared to LA. And I just want to have more followers at first. And then when those followers just kept coming to my events, then I just started doing like more private events.
Mhm. So then at what point, because I'm assuming since how long have you been doing sound baths now?
I started in 2020 during the pandemic.
Okay, so it's been 3 years.
Yes.
Are you still charging your beginner prices like when you first
not
started?
anymore, because I mostly do home service. So I go to like people's houses and do the events there if they have an occasion or if they just want to do like a sound bath. And I started charging more because of I have to travel to the venue and I have to set up and yeah.
I love that you incorporated that because I think a lot of people that are in the service-based industry don't take like the travel and the amount of time.
Well, for one thing, gas is like getting more
Right.
expensive and like you have to account everything, especially your time, because it takes like for me, it takes 30 minutes to set up, 30 minutes to break down. And that's not included in the actual sound bath. So you have to account for that. Like your effort in going to a venue is already, you have to charge for it. You need to know that that's very valuable. So yeah, your time and effort you should put value to it when you're doing like small businesses like this.
100%. Would you agree with the saying? I heard this online when I first started doing social media management that the whatever price you're going to charge a client when you're first starting out, double it because usually you are undercharging yourself. Would you agree with that saying?
Yes, definitely. Because at first I just like what I said, when I was starting, I actually did free events and I was like, I feel like I'm learning from it. I'm getting more experience from doing the business, but at the same time, it's just like a waste of my time and effort. But once I got more clients, I started to realize that, oh, yeah, I need to value my time and my effort in doing it.
Absolutely. I definitely can relate to that because every waking moment that I'm not at work, I am usually spending it working on my social media management business or on my clients' work, like in terms of, doing the work for whatever service it is that I'm offering them.
Yeah, especially we work like a full-time job. So like the time that you're off work is that you need to put value into it because I mean that's supposed to be the days to rest from work and you're still doing your side hustle. So you need to put value with that, like for that.
Yeah, 100%. Would you say, or what advice would you give to people that have side hustles, doing things on the side? Like, what advice would you have for them in terms of how to increase their prices?
Well, you need to have that mindset of like just put value on yourself first. Because if you don't value yourself, then you're not gonna put value in the work that you put in or like the time that you spend on doing your business. Yeah, that's a lesson that I learned as I do this, the charcuterie and the sound baths.
Are you having trouble with social media? Need a content creator, a video editor, or need social media management? Well, those are some of the services that I offer. Go to reneeswaria.com for more. Now back to the show.
What would you say is the biggest obstacle that you've faced with your two businesses?
How to shuffle both of them. Like balance, like give time to both of them because definitely like I can do both at the same time. There are some days that I do like a sound bath and charcuterie at the same day, and that's
really?
Yeah, that's extremely hard.
Can you walk us through how you handled that day?
Oh man, okay. Well, I start really early. Well, I actually start a day or two before that day because I still have to shop for all like the cheeses and the like fruits and like meats and all of that. I start shopping.
By the way, you're doing this by yourself.
Yes, I'm doing it by myself.
Both of them.
Yes. So I have to shop for that And then I have like that night I have to like conceptualize what I want to do with the design and stuff. And then at the same time, I have to bring out the instrument, my sound healing instruments, and practice a bit because I don't go in an event. Well, I sometimes I go in an event with like no game plan. It's more of like freestyling my sound bats, but I'm a very calculated. I have a very calculated personality, more of like a type A.
Sure. Mhm.
Yeah. So I always plan ahead and um I make like a flow for my sound bats. So and then I pack up all the instruments and I can't really prepare the food the night before because like for example, if I do the strawberries or the grapes, I wash them and set them up already. They won't look good when I deliver them. So I do deliver the same day that I make them, within like 2 to 3 hours. And it
Oh, it's
takes
super fresh.
yeah, it's very fresh because that way, like it will look really nice when you deliver them. And that's also another advice that I would give. If you're doing a business, you have to provide the best quality of service or products that you give because that will just like show like how good you are in your business. That's why like clients keep like booking you or like buying your products.
Oh yeah, nobody wants to get a service or a product that's half-assed. I
Yeah.
think a lot of people can tell.
Yeah, and to continue on with the like how I'm doing the bit like both of them in the same day. So the next day, the actual day of the event, I have to set up the charcuterie first and like make it first before I actually pack everything in the car because that's the last thing that goes in the car because here in Vegas it's pretty hot during the summer and like you have to turn on your AC in your car first, so that's already gas that's running.
No, yeah, nobody wants melted cheese.
Yeah. And so I go to the venue and then I set up the charcuterie first before I set up the sound bath because like the food should come out already.
Oh, so you're doing both the charcuterie and for this specific example, you're providing a charcuterie board experience and a sound bath
Yes.
experience for the same
Yes.
client. Oh, I see. Oh, I didn't know that you offered that package. That's awesome.
And sometimes I do like multiple sound baths during the day, multiple charcuterie boards for different clients throughout the valley. Like sometimes my day goes like crazy. If there's like last year for Christmas Eve, I made 6 charcuterie boards.
Oh my gosh.
And that is a lot because one board I normally take between 1 to 2 hours to make because like the design is very intricate. You already saw
Oh yeah,
I
you've
made
given
my
me one for
boards,
my
yeah.
birthday and they're absolutely beautiful. They're like the most bougiest Instagrammable charcuterie boards out there. He doesn't just use like a basic charcuterie package that you would get from the store. You literally pick out everything individually.
Yeah. And I have like some challenges also when doing business like this because sometimes like, you know, with the healing arts, especially with sound healing, like some people don't have any idea of how much it actually costs outside when people do events or like it's their first time doing it. So people always tend to like ask to price it down and like haggle with me. And I just learned to be firm with my pricing.
I guess for those that don't know, like how much would a standard charcuterie board from you cost?
Well, I would say a 10-inch by like 16-inch board would cost around $150 to $200. Depends. It depends on like how many cheese you want, how many meats you want, and like how bougie of a charcuterie board you want. Because I can buy like cheap stuff, I can buy expensive stuff. It just depends.
Right. So a board of that size would you say that is about 2 hours of your time?
Yes.
Well, that's pretty good because if it's a $200 charcuterie board, you're making $100 an hour.
Yes. Well, actually, no. That's
Well, I guess not including the shopping.
yeah, not including the gas and my time. So now I'm starting to charge more for it because that's when I started. Because like,
Well, okay. Well, don't tell me your starting price. How much are you charging now?
well, now
Yeah.
I start at 200.
200.
Yeah,
Would that be for a standard board or?
a standard board, and like I have different size of boards. I have kind of like a surfboard, like a mini surfboard, like chopping board, and I charge around 400 for that.
For a surfboard size charcuterie board?
Yes.
That's amazing. So, can we talk a little bit about like profit margins? So, you would charge about like, let's say 400 for that surf size charcuterie board. Like how much do you actually spend on the individual like cheeses, the meats? Because I would imagine that it's still expensive because you're getting high quality meats.
Yes. Well, I mean, it depends. Sometimes if I go to Trader Joe's, I would get like a good deal with like buying like multiple cheese packets. So I would save up on that. And then sometimes I go to Costco if it's a bigger project, and I would save more on that. So sometimes if I would use the $400 board that I make, I would spend around 150 in buying like the food.
For the $400 board or
the
the $200
for the $400 board. But
wow.
I already include the ramekins and all of that because I tend to lose that.
Include the what?
The ramekins, because like the mini
What's that?
bowls. It's like the mini bowls that I used to put like the baby pickles and like the
for like
olive,
sauces and honey.
and sauces.
Okay,
Yes.
little bowl.
I also include that in the pricing now because before I deliver the board, and then when I retrieve the board, I normally ask them to return the ramekins back because that's not included with the price.
Oh wow.
Because like I mean, like some of like the mini jars that I get, I find them at like Home Goods, and you can't find them anywhere anymore. So like, and they're really cute. So people like to keep them. So I started like charging, like including that in the price of the board, so that they could just like take that, and I'll just have my boards back because I just rent out the boards.
Oh, they give you the boards back.
Yeah, it depends. Sometimes if they ask, if a client asks to, like, if they can have the board, then I just charge them for the board.
Oh, I see. Okay. I'm guessing as you expand, eventually you're going to get boards that are disposable or boards that you can give away as part of the whole package, like a board that they would keep.
That's an option that I give because the boards aren't really cheap. Like even if you go to Home Goods, like a pretty decent chopping board is like what, $16 to $20. So I would include that if it's that cheap. But if it's more than that, like the biggest board that I have is almost $80. I have to retrieve that because like it's expensive. First of all, that's my investment also.
Sure, it's kind of like a loaner board.
Yes.
Wow. So in terms of like your profit, if you're making $150 off of a $400 board, and $150 that would just include like that would be the actual shopping, like for the groceries. Is that right?
Yeah, that's what I spend in buying the groceries. But like the profit that I make, of course, I have to account like how much gas did I spend on that, and the time and effort, and of course your creativity. You have to account your creativity in pricing, especially just like what I said. My boards aren't like the ordinary boards that you get. You can get charcuterie boards anywhere nowadays, and they don't look as good as the boards that I make.
Right. Well, after hearing what you had just said, I feel like you should charge a little bit more because for that $400 board, if you're only making, if you're spending 150 already on the products, on the cheeses and meats alone, that's almost 50%.
Well, yeah, I understand that, but you also have to find the balance between like, pricing uh reasonably versus like uh how would I say it? Because like, if you price it up too high, then the clients won't buy it. So you have to find that balance
The sweet
between,
spot.
yes, you have to find that sweet spot uh so that the clients will buy it and then they will enjoy the product and then they'll keep coming back for more.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So I guess maybe that wasn't the best example of $400 charcuterie board. What about one of your smaller ones, like your $200 charcuterie boards? Like, how much would you spend on the food, for the meats and cheeses,
For
all
the
that?
food, around $60 to $80. Sometimes,
Okay, that sounds
yeah.
okay. It's still almost half, but if it's $60, that's a pretty good
Yeah, and sometimes
margin.
this is a problem of mine when I started. I tend to overbuy stuff because like my boards, I like more variety with in terms of like the cheese and the meats and the accoutrements. So I tend to overbuy stuff. And so when the board is finished, I look at my pantry and I was like, how come there's so much food in here? So I learned how to like uh just buy the right amount, and I have to at least book at least 2 or 3 times, like 3 boards, like every time I make them.
I was about to say, I feel like you want to utilize all the supply that you
Yes,
got.
yes, and I also enjoy um eating them, so that's also part of like the profit.
That's true. It's like a win-win situation.
Yes, and that's another thing. You have to enjoy like the products and services that you're providing. When you Because if not, then like you won't really appreciate what you're like the effort that you're doing. For example, with the charcuterie, I also love like cheese and meats and the accoutrements. So like if I don't really enjoy that, you just make that. That's more just like you just make it. It's not really like a passion of yours.
Right. Like there's no love or any, I guess you would say, any like intention behind it.
Yes, yes,
Wow.
definitely.
So I want to switch gears over to your sound bath business. How, I guess, because not a lot of, I feel like sound baths are, they just started blowing up because of social media. Like, how do you get clients for your sound
Well, let's
baths?
start first because I already gave you the background of how I started. Well, I actually started like way back in 2017 because I had a falling out with a friend and it sent me in a depression like journey. So one time I went to Sedona.
That's how all small businesses start, by
Yeah.
the way, is some traumatic uh, thing in your life happening, some tragedy.
Yeah. So I went to Sedona and I just decided I'm gonna go on a spiritual journey. And I got a like intuitive reading. I
What is
just
that?
I
What do you mean
well
intuitive reading?
it's more of like uh it's more of like a psychic like reading, but it's more intuitive.
Oh God. Okay.
Yeah,
Tell us
so
more.
so I went there, and then the lady that did the reading told me that I'm gonna go in this like I'm gonna go in the healing arts. I didn't know what it meant at first. So I just was like, okay, and went back here in Vegas. And then I joined a group in Facebook that does like they meet in somebody's house and they do like meditation like sessions. So uh I went in that event, and at first I was scared because like I grew up in a very strict Catholic family back in the Philippines. So I was like, oh, what is this? It's kind of like a witchcraft kind of thing. So I was kind of skeptical about it. So going in that event, I was like, oh, this is nothing like what I was like thinking. So I learned how to have an open mindset in doing it. And then I found another event, which is like a gong bath in like commercial center. Like,
Mm.
so I attended that event, and just it just gave me like pure relaxation. And I just kept going week after week after week. And then I noticed that my mood started improving. So I was like, wow, like the sound baths are actually helping me. And um, that's when I found out that my cousin's wife is doing it in Long Beach. So I was like, well, wait a minute. Um, can I attend your event? I asked her. So she's like, sure. So I went to Long Beach and I attended her event, and I was like, wow, this is something amazing, because she's using a different type of instrument. She's using crystal singing bowls. And I was like, wow, I really like this. So during the pandemic, I was like, well, I think I'm ready to um, start investing. I told myself I want to do this. I want to do the sound bath. So at first, I was just thinking about investing in like some cheap instruments, or just like a gong or something, just to jumpstart it. And I asked my cousin, I asked Joy for guidance, and she's like, well, if you really want to do this, you have to invest in alchemy singing bowls. And I was like, what is that? So she showed me what it is, and she's like, yeah, it's a little bit more expensive than your traditional sound healing instruments, but like you'll see the difference. You'll feel the difference. And I was like, so I trusted her. And so I invested in my first few bowls at first. Just like what I said, it's for myself at first, because the pandemic is just took a toll on my mental health. Because
You and the rest of the world.
yeah, well, I mean, I'm a patient care technician, so I work in a COVID unit, so I saw everything, and I also got sick from it. So I was like, okay, well, let's do this. I bought my first set.
How much was your set?
It's pretty expensive. Well, I invested 5K at first.
5K.
Yeah,
This is 5K for those for the first
like
singing bowls that you
it's
got
around
for.
five. Yeah, 5 pieces.
That's not cheap.
It's not cheap, but I trusted her. I trusted Joy in saying that invest on that, because
But you trusted her because she was your cousin, right? Because
no,
$5,000 is a
it's
lot
not
to trust in.
in investing. Yes.
Yeah.
And at first, because like I didn't know what I was doing at first, because like I got the instruments and I just started playing it at home, and it improved my mood. So like that investment is for myself. So I was like, okay, well, this is gonna be like, it's better than taking antidepressants and like going through a therapist and all of that. So I was like, okay. And then as soon as I acquired that set, I was like, okay, there's more out there. There's more bowls. There's more alchemies out there. So it's like collecting Pokemons. Once you start collecting them, you just keep wanting to like get more. So
So you just become obsessed, it sounds like.
yeah, I became obsessed with it. I just started researching about like doing music with the sound healing, because like sound healing, you can do more of like a journey type of sound healing, and my style is more, there's more musicality to it, so it's easier on the ears, and it's better for meditation. It's lighter on your mind, so you don't really, it's not really heavy in terms, because like when you're doing meditation, you need to have like a very uh, how would I say it?
The right
Like
headspace?
yeah, you need to have the right headspace, and almost like having no thoughts when you're doing it, because like during the sound bath, there like the thoughts on your subconscious will start talking to you and stuff like that. So you need to have like that clear headspace at first, and that my style helps with that. And then so I added like a little bit more, like three more bowls. So, and I realized that the more alchemies that you get on your bowls, the more expensive they get.
The more what?
The more alchemies, because like
What does that mean?
the singing bowls that I have alchemies in them. So they infuse it's made of quartz, and they infuse it with different metals and crystals and gems within the bowl. So whatever like properties that like a crystal have, it gets transmitted through the sound with the sound bath.
Oh, so that's why these bowls are so expensive.
Yes, that's why they're more
they're
expensive.
thousands of dollars.
Yes. Normal sound singing bowls are only like made of frosted quartz. So it's just pure quartz. I mean, it sounds amazing, but the alchemy ones are more like much more special.
Yeah. Well, what would you recommend for somebody who's just trying to start out with giving sound baths and trying to do this as a business? What would you recommend? Because I feel like not everybody has $5,000
Yes, I
to spend on
understand that.
bowls.
Well, for me, I actually saved up for it, and the bowls paid themselves off like by doing events and stuff like that.
In what time frame?
I would say 2 years. Well,
2 years?
yeah, well, I acquired almost like a dozen bowls now. So yeah, I invested more, and they already paid themselves off through events.
Really?
Yes.
How much do you charge for a standard, I guess, would it be an hour sound bath?
Yeah, an hour sound bath, it would start around $200. Yeah, because I do home service now. I do private events, and that's like a minimum of 10 people. Oh, actually, maximum 10 people. Because before, I charge around like $25 per person if I do public events. But public events, it's a little bit harder for me because I need to find a venue.
Sure. Mhm.
And sometimes, well, I found a venue here in Vegas. It's at the public library. They have like theaters and event like spaces in the library. So that's how I started. So I did it at the Clark County
I think we actually
library.
went and saw you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that one, I worked with a yoga instructor, but that's also a challenge, because like if you're doing events with other people, you need to be in the right how would I say it? You need to be in the same page of what you want to happen, because like that's one of the challenges. She wanted to do a free event, and I don't want the free event because I've already done free events before. And of course, I just want to value my time and effort in doing the event. And we don't see the right, like we're not on the same page. So we just kind of parted ways, I guess.
Yeah, I can see that being troublesome because I feel like with the partnership, yes, of course, like it's cool to like collaborate, but if you guys don't have the same goal for whatever it is that you're partnering on, I feel like that can cause some friction.
Yes, definitely.
But I think that it's still beneficial because then you're getting her audience and she's getting your audience, like vice versa. But would you say that, I mean, for somebody that's just starting out, like back to the question that I asked earlier, like, how would you go about initiating a sound bath business, like in terms of the bowls, the investment, collaborating with other people?
Well, investing first. I mean, you can buy it. It's not a requirement to have expensive instruments. It just happens that like I got advice to get the best instruments already because Joy already had frosted bowls before, so she told me the difference in the sound quality and whatever you're feeling during the sound bath. It's a lot different when you're doing alchemy sound bath or just a regular sound bath. Even like buying like a giant gong, it also takes you on a different journey when you're doing a sound bath. So it doesn't necessarily have to be expensive to buy your sound healing instrument. So you can start with like cheaper instruments, and then once you start acquiring more clients, then you can start investing on more expensive stuff. It just happens that I just got advice already with like whatever uh like to get the more expensive stuff, and that turned out to be the best decision that I made for myself.
Yeah, it sounds like what you're saying is if you can afford to get the higher quality equipment, in your case, bowls, like go for it. But if you can't, kind of start out with what you can, like the basics.
Yes, you can get stuff on Amazon, you can get it on Etsy. I've been looking at like instruments before on Etsy, and they have like pretty decent like singing bowls on Etsy.
Yeah, because of how you've been talking about sound baths like bring you through this spiritual journey and provide almost like clarity and insight. I think that it sounds very, very therapeutic. And
Yes.
because of that, I feel like that just adds so much more value in terms of your service because it's not just a performance, you're getting a treatment almost.
Well, let's define what a sound bath is for, or sound healing. It's a healing modality. So it's like a type of alternative medicine. Well, I won't even call it medicine.
I would say it's like a treatment.
Yeah,
Like
it's more of like a treatment, because like if you go in a quiet space and you actually focus on the instruments. You're hearing the instruments, and you actually the instruments help you on entrainment. What is entrainment? It's like training your brain to go on like different states. So for example, if I play a certain note, and your ears will hear it, and your brain interprets it as like uh something to help you relax sometimes. Well, it depends. Based from my experience, I have sound baths that are just puts me to sleep, and there are sound baths that makes me cry. So you definitely get different experience doing it more.
Yeah, and so that's why I wanted to ask because it sounds like you're getting so many different benefits from a sound bath and it sounds like a treatment for your overall self and being. Wouldn't you say that that would add so much more value rather than a performance? I feel like you can charge more because it's so therapeutic, because it's so I guess it can just change your like sense of self and awareness and bring you to that next level. I feel like you can definitely price it a little bit higher, or would you say that that's already included? Because I think that's more than just a performance.
Well, yeah, I understand that, but just like what I said with the charcuterie business, you have to find that sweet spot, because like if you start charging way more, then your clients are not willing to pay for it. So you have to.
How do you know if you're charging like
Well,
a lot, I guess?
Well, when I started, just like what I said, I started doing free events, and like based on like sharing information with Joy, I asked her like how much they charge. I looked up different events here in Vegas, and I just based my pricing from there. Well, I started with charging like $15 like per person, and I reflect on it afterwards, and I was like, well, this is not enough, because like I'm putting so much time and effort. It's not like doing an event. It's not just going there and doing the sound bath and setting up and breaking down the setup, and that's it. it actually takes toll on my behalf because I'm doing energy work. So by the time the sound bath is done, normally my throat is so dry I can't even speak afterwards. And then I just get exhausted afterwards. So it takes a lot from me also. Then that's when I started realizing that I need to charge more for what I'm doing.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad that you are, because from everything that you've just told me, it sounds like so much work, so many benefits, but also it sounds like that you're going through that journey with your clients at the same time.
That's correct. Yeah. And sometimes each sound bath is a different experience for me also. Sometimes when I finish a session, I always like have this like wow moment on for myself because like I'm also surprised on what the instruments like can do. And I like the more that I do it, the more that I learn more about the instruments. It's more that those are like kind of like my babies.
Yeah, no, I love your passion for. I feel like you're almost more passionate about these sound baths. I could be wrong, but from everything you've told me, it sounds like you
Well, I find the
have a deep
balance
love.
in both because sometimes like well I do practice meditation almost every day. And when I do sound baths, it just elevates that experience more. But the charcuterie, that just brings out my creative side. So I always try to find the balance in doing both.
Where do you see Grazin Kens, your charcuterie business, and Kenoral, your sound bath business in the future?
Well, let's start with Grazing Kens. So I have this business opportunity that I mentioned earlier. So if that becomes successful, well, I'm looking forward to having more clients first and clients that actually can pay more money. So I'm venturing out into doing more bigger setups. Like instead of just doing boards, I'm doing like grazing tables and for bigger events like conventions and weddings and stuff like that. So that's what I look forward in doing with that business. Well, on the sound bath side, I'm looking forward into getting like a studio and doing an event probably once or twice a week,
And then what would you
like
do?
renting out a studio to do sound baths and stuff. Or
Oh, I
yeah,
see. But what about the other days? Would you rent those? Like, would you rent the studio out to other people on those days that you're not using it, or do you mean just rent it out for that day?
well, what I mean is probably get a space to rent out. So I could just rent it out for like a few days a week, a day or two a week. I'm not really I'm not there yet to invest in like a space for my like on my own. So yeah.
What advice would you give to younger Ken from 3, 5 years ago, who was just starting these businesses out?
Hmm. Well, my advice to my old self would be uh believe in yourself. Because at first, when you're doing a small business like this, you're always in doubt. You're always like having like thoughts of like, oh, will this business like go off?
I think it's an imposter syndrome.
Yeah, I always doubted myself, and um, that resulted in like lesser like missed opportunities and just devaluing yourself. So you need to, and that's my other advice to old Ken, like is to just um know your worth.
I love that.
Yeah.
What would you say is your secret boss sauce that you want other entrepreneurs, aspiring small business owners to take away from this conversation?
Well, with both businesses, with based on my experience, you need to provide the best quality of service or product that you have. That's my best advice. Because if you have that, then your clients will see that and then they'll just keep buying your product or business or service. Because if you just give them like a mediocre like product, then they'll find something else. But if you give them the best quality and the best service, then they'll just like come back and buy more of what you can offer.
Go above and beyond for them.
Yes.
Ken, you have been so inspirational. I have learned so much about you from this conversation, which is amazing because I'm seeing this different entrepreneurial side. But can you go ahead and tell everyone how they can find you, book your services, get in contact with you?
Okay, you can find me on Instagram. My charcuterie handle is Grazin Kens. It's GRAZIN_KENS. And my sound bath handle is Kenaural. It's KENAURAL.
All right. Thank you so much, Ken, for being on The Boss Sauce. We'll see you guys next time.